It's generally accepted around the world that electric vehicle sales in a particular country or region are dependent on how accepting citizens are of electric vehicles in general, the availability and density of public charging, and the existence of purchase incentives designed to lower the traditionally higher sticker price of electric cars to a level more comparable to that of an internal combustion engine vehicle. I am oversimplifying the list. There are other factors that come into play too, but in general, those are the biggies. And as we've seen plenty of times now, places where there are good incentives and public charging provision, like Norway, electric vehicle adoption rates are high. Where there are no incentives offered and public charging is sparse or non-existent, few people make the switch. And when a place that once offered incentives, like the state of Georgia, cuts them, the number of electric vehicle sales fall off the cliff overnight. In the US, not all states offer electric vehicle incentives, but for as long as we've had modern electric cars offered for sale, those buying a qualifying EV or plug-in hybrid have been eligible to claim up to $7,500 in federal tax credits when filing taxes for the year in which they purchased their plug-in car, assuming, of course, their tax liability was large enough for the tax credits to offset. The tax credit program for electric vehicles has started to become pretty popular, and for some automakers will continue for some time to come. But when it was introduced, it came with an expiration, meaning that at some point, the US federal government will stop offering tax credits to those who purchase an EV. But rather than have a set date for expiration, however, the tax credit program for EVs is based upon total vehicles sold by each car company. For the first 200,000 vehicles sold and produced by each automaker, the feds will honour the full tax credit. Once each automaker hits the 200,000 EV or plug-in vehicle cap, the credit rolls back, first to half of its original value in the first 6 months of the tax year following the one in which the limit was reached, then to a quarter of the original value in the second half of the year, followed by none the next. When each automaker hits the cap is, of course, determined by how popular its vehicles are. Tesla, for example, hit that limit earlier this year, meaning incentives will roll back in January for those buying a new Tesla. GM is similarly expected to hit that limit this year, following Tesla in its incentive rollback. If I had to guess, Nissan will most likely hit it sometime next year. With these incentives starting to disappear, it means that the cost of buying certain cars will go up, unless their respective automakers swallow the $7,500 or so of sticker price that the incentive has knocked the effective price down by. And so, this week, a new lobbying group popped onto the radar in the US called the EV Drive Coalition. It's supported by a host of different groups, including charging station manufacturers, charging networks, clean fuel NGOs from various states, the Electric Auto Association, Plug-in America, General Motors, Nissan, Tesla, and Proterra, and it's calling for the US federal government to extend the current electric vehicle tax credit program beyond its original limits. Arguing that every new electric vehicle on the road of the US makes it more energy independent and less reliant on foreign oil, the coalition is doing exactly what General Motors did earlier this month, calling for the 200,000th car cap to be removed and instead to be replaced with a planned sunset once, quote, the nascent EV industry has had additional time to mature and grow. It also notes the current federal tax credit penalizes companies that helped kickstart the initial investment in electric cars, read Tesla, GM and Nissan, adding that consumers who wish to purchase cars by manufacturers who were ahead of the curve may no longer be able to because of the expired tax credits. As a warning, it cites Georgia's removal of the state tax credits for EVs, which was up to $5,000 per car until 2015, but then replaced with a $200 annual EV registration fee. When that happened, EV sales dropped 90%. In an ideal world, of course, incentives wouldn't be needed because electric vehicles would cost the same as an internal combustion engine vehicle. At the moment, however, even for companies like Tesla, battery costs are still a little too high for that to be the case. Even with Tesla's recent next-generation battery announcement and similar improvements from other automakers promised, extra incentives are still very much needed. Some critics also claim that automakers are inflating prices to ensure that they benefit from the tax credit, reaping extra profit from their cars. However, there's very little evidence to suggest this is the case. Earlier this year, for example, an analyst with UBS estimated that GM is losing $7,400 on every single Bolt EV it sells. That's nearly the same as the maximum tax credit you get when you buy one. So the EV Drive Coalition's call seems to make sense, and I'm guessing if you're looking to buy an EV anytime soon, you'll probably agree. After all, it's either that, or paying a lot more for your car, or seeing the automaker double their losses per vehicle. But before I go, I should also note that some critics of incentives do say it's a free handout to give rich, wealthy urbanites discounts on cars they could otherwise already afford. And at one time I may have seen that too, but as electric car choice and model variety has increased, it's not just high-end Teslas available in many areas. A cap on the income of the person claiming the credit might work, but sadly, the fact is that if you have money and earn more money, the chances are that you know how to maximize your deductions anyway, or can pay someone who can do it for you. And if you're going to argue that this tax credit is unfair, then you may end up finding many other tax credits with similar unfairnesses. As for those who claim an unfair playing field for the internal combustion car, well, last year the US, totaling federal subsidies and state-level incentives, gave $20.5 billion to the fossil fuel industry to subsidize US coal mining and oil and gas production. And to bring it back to the individual, that's before you even account for the incentives that individual investors can claim back against their taxes for oil and gas drilling. Intangible drilling costs, 100%, even if the well doesn't produce or strike oil. Tangible drilling costs, 100%. And a 15% exclusion of all gross income from oil and gas wells, assuming the, quote, small producer doesn't make more than 50,000 barrels of oil per day. How's that for incentives? So, should these incentives be continued or extended? Let me know your thoughts below, although I think I know what you're going to say. That's it. Don't forget to give us your thumbs up or your thumbs down, leave a comment, and as always, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell below. As always, thanks to our Patreon supporters, without whom we'd never be able to produce all of this daily content for you all to enjoy. You can join them for yourselves at patreon.com/Transport Evolved. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep evolving.